Procedural learning is the process of acquiring new motor skills or movements through practice and experience. It's a little bit unique from other forms of learning in the brain, and I'll show you why. If I told you that I can draw a circle with one hand and a square with the other, you can learn that idea instantly, right now. In an hour, if I asked you what the two shapes were, I'm sure you could remember a square and a circle. That's called declarative learning or declarative memory. But now try doing it. It's not easy, but with practice, it gets easier. Eventually, with enough practice, it will just become automatic. You won't even have to think about it. This is procedural learning, and other examples include things like riding a bike, learning how to throw a football, or shave your face. By practicing it over and over and over, you strengthen the connections in the brain that control that sequence of movements, until those connections become so strong that it's essentially automatic. Procedural learning is thought to require the strengthening of connections between the cortex, the thick outer layer of the brain, and the basal ganglia, a group of brain regions deeper into the brain that are involved in movements. So is procedural learning involved in neurofeedback training? It depends on the type of neurofeedback training and the brain regions targeted. In one study with a group of 10 people, they did neurofeedback training targeting the motor cortex. And afterwards, the participants showed enhanced learning of a procedural motor task. In another study, researchers used neurofeedback to train rats to activate brain cells in the motor cortex. They played a tone out loud that corresponded with the level of activity in the motor cortex, and they gave the rats a little reward like a piece of food or a sucrose pellet when they brought the tone into a specific range. Now, interestingly, when the researchers went into the basal ganglia and deleted a receptor that's involved in learning, called the NMDA receptor, it prevented the rats from learning to do this neurofeedback in the motor cortex, which could suggest that the brain regions involved in neurofeedback training could have some overlap with those involved in procedural motor learning.